All right, one of the most frequent questions I get from nurses trying to get into aesthetics is, how do I get started? And it's a really good question because it can be a very complicated process if you don't know what you're doing. So this video, the intent of this video is to teach you as a nurse how to get into aesthetics, all right? Now, I have surmised there's two ways of getting aesthetics. Either you're an entrepreneur and you want to start your own business, or you want to work for somebody else. So that's the first question you have to ask yourself. Do I want to work for somebody else, or do I want entrepreneurship? Do I want to start my own business? And there's pluses and minuses to both. So let's go down the working for somebody else. So you're going to work for a boss. There's implications with that. You're not going to be able to make your own schedule. You're going to be working, for somebody else. But the good thing about working for somebody else is you don't have to think about it. You just show up, you do this work. It's a wonderful job. Okay. So if you're going to work for your boss and you have no experience in the field, then you have a couple of options. You find an employer who's willing to train you, many will, or you go and get the training yourself. And then once you have the training, you're a little bit more marketable to find that job. Okay. I'll tell you from personal experiences, I have nurses reach out to me all the time with and without experience to get employed. And honestly, them having experience doesn't mean anything to me. I want the right person. I could teach them everything I want to know. So I would tell you, go find the job first and have them pay for your training. Now, the training component, you have to make sure you're getting good training. And that's the biggest what if out there. You don't know who's a good trainer. You don't know if you're going to get a good quality training. So things to look for, and I've made videos about this, but things to look for good training is, are they just training you with the skill set and then saying, see ya? Is there any mentorship after the training program? Do you have access to materials after the training program? Can you review content 2, 3, 4, 5 weeks later? Are they just going to train you and say goodbye? Those are all things you need to be asking your training, the person training you. Obviously, you want them to be credentialed. Obviously, you want them to be in the business already, so they know how to train and what to train for you. So finding good quality training is really important on both sides of the fence, both entrepreneurship and if you're working for somebody else. Try to find somebody who's willing to mentor you after the training as well. And there's many of them out there. Training's going to cost you between $3,000 and $6,000 typically if you do it on your own, which is why I say work for the boss. Now, here's something that's interesting in the industry. We as employers are more than willing to pay for your training. However, we're going to make you sign stipulations that if you leave us, you have to pay for us the training back. And all the training you get in the organization, if you ever leave, you have to pay it back. So that's something to be considerate of too if you go work for somebody else, and rightfully so. I can dump $20,000, $30,000 into an employee for training, and if they leave me, that's out the door. I've made that mistake before. Won't make that mistake again. So that's how, if you go work for your boss, what are you avoiding? You're avoiding all the business side of stuff. So if you just want to wake up, go to work, and come home and enjoy a great way of life, go work for somebody else. Other downside about working for somebody else, you're not going to make near as much money. They're going to take all your profits. Okay, you'll make more than a bedside nurse. Typical nurse injectors in my area probably make between $60 and $70 an hour, which is great money, versus bedside, which is $40. But that's if you work for somebody else. Now, what I encourage you to do, don't work for somebody else, work for yourself and become an entrepreneur. Okay, so let's talk about the steps if you want to work for yourself. If you decide you want to work for yourself and you're a nurse, the one thing you have to have, doesn't matter which state in the union you're operating out of, you have to have a medical director. And you do not want to do everything else unless you have in at least a verbal agreement with somebody in your community that's willing to be your medical director. Obviously, you want the medical director to have experience in aesthetics. You want them to be a mentor. We're going to talk a lot about mentorship later. You want them to help you out when issues arise. You don't want them just to be a license number, all right? Don't do anything else unless you have a medical director. Because if you do everything else and you can't find a medical director, you're stuck in the water without oars. Okay? The sails are down and you're just floating in the ocean with nowhere to go. You got to have a medical director. So that's step one, is find a medical director, at least in principle, somebody that's willing to do it. Medical directors on your own typically take either a flat fee, usually around $1,000 a month. $500 is about the cheapest I've ever seen it out there, or a percentage of your revenues. And it's usually around 10% of your revenues. And that's how you'll get reimbursed, or that's how you'll reimburse your medical director. Okay, so you're going to find a medical director. Once that is set up in principle, then you're going to form an LLC. An LLC is a business entity that protects you and your personal assets from something bad happens. So if you make a mistake in your business, they go after the LLC and not you. It is a protection with you. The IRS thinks of an LLC kind of like an individual. In fact, they will issue you something called a tax ID number. It's like a social security number for your business, and that's what you operate out of. So Susie's Injecting is the name of your business. That's the name of your LLC. Your tax ID number will be Susie's Injecting. And then as you go out into the community, everything you do is through that LLC. Once you get the LLC and the tax ID number, then you're going to set up a bank account. And all financials go through that bank account. Purchasing product, revenues coming in, everything goes through that bank account because that bank account is the individual LLC owns that bank account, and that's what you're operating under. All right. Now, setting up an LLC you can do on your own. I don't recommend it. There's different types of LLCs. There's LLC. A lot of states have something called a PLLC, a Professional Limited Liability Corporation. And what you need to do is get a lawyer involved. Highly recommend it. Typically costs you between $750 and $1,000 to have a lawyer draft your LLC, do something called an operating agreement, which is it structures your business. The other thing a lawyer will do is they'll set up your LLC so that someday if you want to sell it, it's sellable. A lot of times if you just go online and check the boxes and start an LLC, you don't have an operating agreement, that business can often not be a sellable asset. And you always want an extra strategy when you get into business as well. Okay. But talk to a lawyer. They'll tell you, they'll get you a tax ID. They'll get all that set up for you. It's worth the money. Trust me, it's worth the money. Licensing fees vary depending on the state. In my state, it's about $100 to set up an LLC. I've seen states as high as $500 to set up an LLC. So that'll be an additional cost as well. All right. So that's going to form your business. Okay. Notice we haven't talked about training yet. Okay. We are doing business stuff first. Then after we get that all set up, I want you to get an EMR set up. Okay, there's a lot of different EMRs out there. Aesthetic Records, one that comes to mind that we will use often. Your EMR is how you're going to be getting people to pay you. You're going to schedule. You're going to chart on them. Let's get that set up, and that takes a few weeks. Some of these things you can do out of order or succinctly, but you can't do business stuff until you have your LLC. Okay, and the EMR should be bought by your LLC, not by your personal assets. So let's start getting an EMR going. So now that the business is formed, we got to start thinking about how we're going to market that business, right? Because if you build it, they won't come. You got to put yourself out there. How are you going to market it? And easy ways with social media. Okay, social media, we recommend that you actually get your personal social media and start talking about it. Hey, I'm starting my own business. I'm starting this side hustle. I'm talking to a lawyer next week, and start getting people interested in your business. And then document that journey. So when you launch your business, you have all these people waiting for you to launch to come and see you. Okay, so social media is a great free way of marketing. There's other ways of marketing as well. So when I say social media, I'm also including marketing as well as part of that. Maybe run some Google ads, maybe get a website set up, but start thinking about how am I going to get my name out there? Guerrilla marketing, knock on the door, right? Start knocking on the doors in your neighborhoods, put up community flyers, go to church, put up a flyer. There's all different ways of doing marketing, but social media is a great way to start. Again, we haven't talked about training yet, right? All of this should start being done before you ever get training. And when you start your own business, training is one of the last steps because you don't want to do training up here and then spend 2 months doing all this and then forget about your training. Okay. I want the training fresh in your mind. So when you start injecting people, you just got the training and you can get it going. So training is one of the last steps in this process. Not to say you can't concurrently doing it while you're doing this. So a lot of training out there's an online component. Yeah, get the online component. Make sure you have access to it 2-3 months later because you don't know how long this is going to take. I've seen some states take as long as a month and a half to get you an LLC. And you don't want to be doing a training, waiting for an LLC, and then a month and a half goes by and you're like, oh my gosh, I don't even remember half the training I did because the content's gone because the trainer I used doesn't let me, have access to the content after the training. Okay. So training, if you have online access, you could do the training concurrently with all of this stuff, right? Once the training's done, If you can't legally inject yet, start marking people up. Talk to your medical director, say, hey, I'm going to start marking people as if I'm going to inject Botox and fillers. I'm going to send you some photos. Tell me what you think. Mark your husband, mark your mom, mark your dad, mark your spouse, and just start marking people up. You don't have to necessarily poke them with a needle to get competent, but knowing where to poke and how much to poke will help solidify that training that you just went through. Training again, find a good trainer, right? Lots of them out there. This is very muddy, okay? And narrowing down what's a good trainer can be very difficult. But ask for, when you find a trainer, ask for referrals, ask for, look at their reviews online, and see if there's a mentorship component about that. And then once you're training and you got all this set up, inject. One thing I left out up here is you also need malpractice insurance. So make sure you get malpractice insurance, but I wouldn't do that till you get your LLC going as well. Malpractice insurance usually costs you about 50 to 100 bucks a month, depending on where you're at and what you're planning on doing, okay? Now, the big thing that connects all of these things when you're starting your own business is mentorship. If you can find a mentor out there that will help you through all of this, it is gravy. When I started my practice, I didn't have a mentor. I got out of school, wanted to start my own business, and then figured it out the hard way. Stumbled, fell, bought too much, didn't buy enough, didn't do marketing for a year and a half. Started doing marketing, and I stumbled, and I failed, and I stumbled, and I failed. But failure only happens if you quit. So all those mistakes I made, I just kept going. And eventually I figured it all out. You don't want to do that. Get a business mentor, okay? So get a business mentorship, get a lawyer, get an accountant. Surround yourself by people that know what they're doing, okay? Medical directors are great mentors. So make sure you get a good one. You don't want to go in this alone. So mentorship is key, okay? So all of this, if you did yourself, you're probably looking at about $6,000, I'm guessing, to get up and running before you start injecting, okay? So those are the steps of starting your own business. Now, what's the nice thing is I lived all this. I know how difficult it is, and I love nurse mentorship. It's like a passion of mine, and I want to see nurses get successful. I want to see them out of the bedside. I want to see them starting their own side hustle, having more time, having more money, having more quality time with their family. So that's why I developed 5 Square Aesthetics. What did 5 Square Aesthetics do? We do all of this. We help you through all of this. You've got your mentor. We have business mentors. We have social media mentorship. We have medical director mentorship. All of our medical directors are trained and they know how to inject, and they're there to help you. Training, you have access to your training forever. We have online modules and then hands-on. The online modules, you'll always get access to those. As more training comes out, we give you huge discounts on that. We get you your products bought. You get discounts on product. The list goes on and on. So if you're an entrepreneur, do this. 100% you could do it on your own. Find mentors to help you out. If you need some help, we have all the mentorship you need. And we do it for a low monthly cost. We spread the cost out over months instead of all up front. So that's the quick and dirty on starting your own business. So if you're interested in our 5 Square program, reach out to us. We'd be happy to help you. In fact, schedule a call with us. You can check the links down below and we can get you a call scheduled with one of our team members. Something I want to emphasize, profits go out the door when you do this on your own. Medical directors are taking it, trainers are taking it. In 5 Square, all the profits you make are your own to keep, and your monthly fee never changes. So that's something to consider as well. So it's a low cost of entry into the industry. So if you want more information, check out our other videos. We have videos on how much you can make as a nurse. We have videos on mistakes to avoid. We have videos on how to be a successful nurse injector. So if you want more information, check out our other videos or schedule a call below. You're going to be successful, and we'll get you where you want to be.